by his good friend all the way. Pero wala, parang deflection lang ginawa niya dito eh. Tingnan niyo guys. Tingnan natin itong again, of course, you know why I'm doing this because all of these things are connected. When a politician of Duterte's stature with quite some influence, when he makes statements, you have to understand those statements within a particular context, di ba? At of course, you wonder anong stance ni Digong ngayon dito sa mga ito sa kanyang kaibigan, di ba? Kasi parang nag-change tone na talaga si tatay ngayon ulit eh. Pero I won't be ambitious. Ito tunanong siya dito. Ito. Nung tinanong siya dun sa issue ni Kiboloy na binigyan siya ng bags of guns daw. Ito yung sabi niya.
Ako pa ba ang mag-deliver sa kanya?
Ako pa daw mag-deliver sa kanya ng canyons.
Ako pa ba ang mag-deliver sa kanya?
Ba't mahinang internet?
Yung bukas o machine gun. Bakit man si pastor mamigay ng baril sa akin? Sama siya magkuha. Kung magsabi siya wala siyang baril, ako pa ba ang mag-deliver sa kanya?
Ako pa daw mag-deliver sa kanya ng machine gun. But you see, that's what Duterte does, di ba? Whenever you put him under a serious question na potentially incriminating, ang ginagawa lang niya, papalitan lang niya yung topic tapos magpapatawa lang siya, di ba? You see, that's one of the communication strengths ni Digong na napansin ko. Yung tactical and strategic usage of humor. Tactical, in a sense na minsan yun yung pang-deflect niya. Di ba? Kunyari, very contentious yung issue or medyo alanganin siya. Magpapatawa lang siya. Wala na, tapos na usapan. Di ba? People will just remember the jokes and all. And sometimes very inappropriate jokes, unfortunately. Sometimes jokes that are not even jokes. They're more like incendiary, offensive things. And then there are times na strategic talaga siya. Hindi lang siya tactical. In the sense na he's just using humor in general to reinforce yung kanyang populist appeal. Diba? Ang dami ko na-meet ng tao na yung si Tatay Digong nakaka-relate yun kasi nakakatawa siya. Parang, alam mo yun guys, yung parang mga ginagawa natin na patawa na ganyan. So I understand why siguro the Vice President is trying to just do yung mga videos na gano'n. Kasi siguro napansin niya, it's easier to get, to get closer to the heart of people pag gumagamit ka ng mga ganyan humor. Kaysa yung, you get very serious and all, and then you make faux pas, you make, you make a mistake here, tapos ikaw pa yung education secretary. So I see what's going on here. I think the advice is, magpatawa na lang tayo, Inday, or something like that. Kasi kitang-kita natin gumagana talaga sa tatay niya. In fact, kanina I was going through videos. May nakita tayong videos sa TikTok, for instance. And I think that's very important. Balikan natin yan. I'll post it separately. Ito yung video ni Digong nung debate nila sa TV5. Diba? I think dun talaga Digong was able to be the breakout star. I think that debate, he did horribly in terms of substance, but in terms of audience impact, ang galing niya. Ito yung debate na pinagtatawanan niya si Marroas. Uy, kanina ka pa nag-CR, pangatlong beses mo na. Yung mga ganon, yung mga banter niya, tapos yung diba sila Grace po, napaka-respectful, stateswoman-like, nag-greet si Lord De Vera, ganyan. Tapos si Digong, sorry, wala akong kilala sa inyo eh. Hi na lang ako dun sa mga hindi minention. Yung mga ganun siya. So meron siyang strategic deployment of humor talaga to make a strong populist appeal. So humor, dark humor, and sometimes very offensive quote-unquote humor is what he uses in order to reinforce yung kanyang emotional, affective connection sa tao. So, kitang-kita natin kay Digong yan, yung ganyang style. Or tactically uses it for deflecting criticism, or if there's a question. So, dito tinanong siya about Kiboloy and guns, nagpatawa na lang siya, ay hindi, ba't yung pare pa magbigay sa ako pa magbigay ng ganyan, machine gun, ganyan, kanyon. So, you see that. There's something going on there. Now, my sense is Sara is trying to replicate that. I just don't know how successful it is. Right? Because I just don't think it's at the same level as Digong. Honestly. I think Digong still does it very, very differently. Kaya hindi ako nagtataka yung kaibigan natin na si Lele Claudio, Professor Claudio. For him, Digong is the master rhetorician. Rhetorician, not speaker, in a sense na he's not a very good speaker. Like, ang sabog yung minsan, hindi mo alam kung saan papuntang discussion. But the impact is very strong. right? The impact is very strong. And my sense is, especially when he speaks in his own language, which is Bisaya. By the way, Bisaya is a language; it's not a dialect. In the same way that Ilocano is a language; it's not a dialect. It's not a variation of Tagalog. You can say there's a Batangueño version of Tagalog. It could be a dialect, but when it comes to Bisaya, it's a completely different language from Tagalog or Filipino, right? I think when Digong is speaking in Bisaya, even if I don't understand it really, konti lang here and there, I could see yung grabe yung audience impact niya. Grabe. Yung the way, gumaganon-ganon siya, yung parang ginigigil-gigil niya yung sasabihin niya. I think, even as someone who doesn't speak Bisaya, I could see the strength of that strategy. So, hindi ako nagtataka na minsan siguro si Sarah is trying to pull off something similar, but it's not at the same level. Kaya nga sabi ko, one thing interesting to watch here is Baste. Because I think Baste has a better grasp or better ability to replicate yung father niya. Except, of course, at least one thing that Sarah and her father have in common is that both of them have legal training. So that gives them a certain kind of pizzazz or some sort of authority na I think gives them some sort of cover also for things that they do that. I mean, they can always say, bakit? Ako, abogado ako. Bakit? Paano mo sabihin ng ganyan-ganyan? Diba? So, I'm just telling you, all of these things are related na pinag-iisipan lahat yan. Even yung mga malabong clarificatory statement and then magpapatawa ka na lang on the sides. You're playing to different audiences and you're using different cadence, using different communication strategies to reach out to different audience and have an overall impact. Anyway, I was also looking at how Digong will say something about Quiboloy because as far as BBM is concerned, at least si BBM may statement siya kay Quiboloy, di ba? Na basically ang statement ni BBM kay Quiboloy is huwag kang matakot, there's nothing to fear, magpakita ka, and then nung tinanong siya about the assassination plot, yung mga ganun, wala, napatawa na lang siya. Ayan, pati si BBM napatawa na lang siya nung tinanong siya about sino naman mag-assassinate sa kanya, di ba? Pakita ka na lang para walang ano. So, essentially you have both BBM and Digong trying to just downplay the drama and all of that. So you can guess anong sinasabi ng ibang tao. And this is where you see Digong is such a consummate politician. He's a total politician. In a sense that this is not about ideology. Hindi ito sa consistencies ng sinasabi niya. It's not even about the substance of his argument. Ang style ni Digong lang is whatever works. What worked in January may not work in February, so ibahin ko yung sasabihin ko. Yung seryoso, hindi gumana, di magpatawa ako. Kung masyado naman ako magpatawa, baka makalimutan niyo ng presidente ako at abogado ako, di remind natin ng tao na medyo matalino din tayo, medyo abogado din tayo. You see what I'm saying? So he's a consummate politician. Very, very politician. Now, he's a different kind of politician from BBM because the BBM politician is a kind of, kunyari, above the phrase style of politician. But kay Digong is a consummate populist kind of politician. So parating tinitingnan ko what is Sara trying to do in terms of replicating yung style ng father niya. Again, none of this is an endorsement, right? Of the approach of Digong to politics. As you know, I'm very, very critical of his approach kasi para sa akin, minsan pang barangay level lang. Although no offense sa mga barangay chairman, marami tayong kilala ng mga barangay chairman na mas matino mag-isip at mas magaling magsalita. Pero, I cannot ignore and I cannot deny its appeal. Unfortunately, it does have a very strong appeal. And I don't think it helps people in the opposition, the pink movement, even yung mga loyalists, na to just dismiss lang Digong or just make fun of Digong and all. I mean, he's funny, you can laugh at him, you can laugh with him, but at the end of the day, ang lakas pa rin nung hatak nila eh. Yun ang sinasabi ko parati, kaya I'm not surprised na BBM will try to keep things on an even keel. Having said that, so while I disagree with si Ronaldo na the Bardagulan will come to a denouement, meaning some sort of culmination, in the short term, so far I've been proven right. Culmination did not happen. Even if yung minura-mura ni tatay yung isa, hindi pa rin. Ayaw pa rin ng D-Day yung isa. So now, Digong also sensing na yung kabila is not so easy to trigger, he's also changing tone. So this is actually a fight of two types of traditional politicians. Both very consummate politicians. Consummate politicians si BBM, consummate politicians si Duterte. And I think Duterte is smart enough to realize na pagdating dito sa issue ng Chacha, gravity is favoring the administration side. There's just too many people doon sa ruling establishment, sa Kongreso, among others, who are invested na dito sa Chacha. And you could see, despite all the drama of Mig Zubiri, all those statements na nirelease, unanimous statement by the Senate about, their questions about people's initiative, despite all of the backlash against Edsa Puera, and all of the shenanigans by some of the congressmen out there, tuloy pa rin ang usapan. It looks like, and I think we partially discussed this with si Ronald kahapon, and I think you also listened to this discussion siguro kanina with Christian Esquera, or ongoing pa rin ba? The thing is, mukhang there is a kind of a modus vivendi or some sort of a least common denominator or a working consensus na between Senate and Congress, which is hindi gagamitin ng Kongreso yung kanilang numerical superiority to essentially marginalize the entire Senate. But it looks like there may be enough numbers to push for some sort of charter change, right? Or at the very least, and dito mahalaga yung sinasabi ni BBM na discuss natin shortly, there will be a push for a plebiscite whereby essentially ma-formalize and potentially ma-institutionalize etong constitutional change. So first, let's quickly talk about Digong, all right? Honestly, guys, itong mga monologue style, okay, there are a bunch of people there who make comments about, Richard, bakit ka, why do you go around, beat around the bush? Why don't you go straight to your discussion? As I said, all right, if you're in my classroom, if you have seen me in think tanks, if you have seen me in if you have followed my stuff, in media, I go straight to the point. But if there's one thing I realize from the Populist and all, and mga bulljack style, mga bloggers and all, is that people also appreciate the kind of a monologue style whereby you're playing all these games and all. Actually, not games. You're taking people on a journey of a conversation. You're thinking things out loud, and you essentially are allowing people to think along with you while you go to the meat of the discussion. I would say it's an Aristotelian approach, right? Mahabang usapan yan. The Socratic Platonic approach is you start with some great idea and then immediately you break it down. Diba? The Aristotelian approach is you build from ground and then you move above. Diba? Kaya yung monologue style and all, that's the approach. Alright? So everything I do, guys, here, it's not just like that. Pinag-isipan natin yan, right? And it's also based on thousands of vlogs we have done, right? If you go to my YouTube, I think we have already uploaded 1,500 vlogs already, right? So everything we do there is based on experience, based on interaction. And I'll be very honest, guys. Yeah, yung inductive, deductive, all of that. But it's just not inductive, deductive. There's also kind of a rhetorical build-up style. But mahabang usapan yan. But what I'm telling you guys is, right, this is a conversation we're having because as much as I'm discussing this issue, tinitingnan ko yung comments nyo, iniisip ko rin yung mga dinidiscuss natin. So actually, we're learning together. So I hope you guys appreciate what we're doing here. Okay? In fairness naman, it looks like, marami tayong mga supporters all around the world. Oh, by the way, thank you so much dun sa mga kameta natin from United Arab Emirates and Italy. So hindi lang tayo number 1 dito and consistently among the top podcast tayo dito, hindi lang dito sa Pilipinas pero sa region. Salamat din sa mga kababayan natin in other countries around the world, especially United Arab Emirates, Italy, etc. Even sa Australia, Singapore, minsan hindi lang tayo nagta-top 100, top 50, minsan top 20 pa tayo or top 10 pa tayo sa mga political podcasts nila. So I really appreciate that. So it looks like marami sa ating mga kababayan na appreciate nila yung how we're approaching these things. But anyway, going back to this, I'm what we're trying to do here is gusto ko makita nyo na when we discuss an issue, we're not just discussing the issue based on what's there in the news. We're not just discussing an issue of chacha as in chacha. You have to understand the psychological games here. You have to understand the biography of people we're talking about. You have to understand your algorithm. Essentially, what I'm doing is I'm giving you a sense of my understanding of Digong's algorithm. Because pinag-aralan ko na mabuti itong tao na to more than 6-7 years. I mean, first year pa lang namin, nakasulat na tayo ng libro about him. But I never pretended to fully understand what was going on, diba? But when I pay attention to something, I obsessively pay attention to it. All right. Uh, how I wish I had more interesting people to focus on, but it is what it is. This is about our country. We have to understand what's going on with our leaders, with the people out there, whether you like them or not, right? And also with BBM. All right. As you can see, guys, I discussed BBM's. I mean, many things that we predicted about BBM have come true, uh, including mga articles natin in the first days after election. But at the same time, I'm never complacent in the sense that alam ko na yung gagawin nila. No, I'm constantly trying to learn and figure out the algorithm of these people. Ayan na naman tayo. Konya style. Okay, let's go back to this. So, speaking of Digong, being a conscious politician, so biglang may konting, siya, switch gear siya. Kasi this switch gear thing is something you guys have to get used to. This is what politicians do. Alright? Because they have no ideology. They have no coherent vision. They're just tactical situational. That's a term that you guys have to keep in mind. Tactical situational. In fact, I got the term from the very good historian na si Adam Tooze, who tried to understand how, for instance, regulators in the United States responded to financial crisis. The term tactical situational means you're driven not by ideology or grand vision. You're driven by, yes, tactical, strategic, situational, contingent kind of calculus. It's about survival. It's about going from one crisis to the other and going from strength to strength. Or when you're weak, you recover. So that's why there's absolutely no surprise in my heart that Digong will come out and suddenly say this about the Chacha, that this is a breath of fresh air. So sabi niya, so ito yung base dun sa isang kasi yung administration nag-welcome na sila. So I'm just trying to find the exact quote from Digong. Bakit hindi yung quote ni Digong nandito? Wait lang, I'm just trying to find. But from what I saw in the videos, si Digong said something like, ang concern lang naman niya is yung sa presidential term limits and all. Because as far as he's concerned, at least he followed that. Although we know naman the context for that, diba? Pumalpak lang kasi gusto niyang Medvedev-Putin scenario. But anyway, at least in his case. So, suddenly he's being the voice of, reason. Na, sige, okay lang, palitan yung constitution, wag lang galawin yung term limits ng presidente. Kasi that will medyo trigger warning yan, diba? That will trigger panic, especially if your president is, someone named Ferdinand Marcos Jr. So, Digong essentially did two change tone. First was, he said, hindi ko tinawag na drug addict si, alam niya na. Sabi niya, wala akong sinabi na ganun na, even if you kill me 1,000 times, wala akong sinabing ganun. I did not say that. Even if you kill me 1,000 times, I did not say such a thing. Make it taking a drug. Pero kung sabihin mong addict, wala akong sinabing ganyan. Patayin ako ni Marcos niyan. Maawa ka naman sa akin. Matanda na ako. Well, except, guys, itag na natin doon sa video kung saan sinabi niya, nagmura-mura siya na, na meron tayong drug addict sa, nako. But this is what he does. He says something and he totally contradicts it and he's okay with that, as if nothing happened. We see this with Donald Trump. We see this with Bolsonaro. We see this with Orban. Levels lang yan. We see this even with Vladimir Putin. Yung ganyan na paiba-ibang sinasabi niya. And now, of course, change of tone din siya dito sa Chacha issue. So with essentially with with Digong also withdrawing his direct attack against some sort of charter change, I think the road is very much paved na for BBM and the administration to push things forward. That's why this is something very serious and we have to really discuss it. So, ito yung sinabi ni Bongbong Marcos. Sabi na, if possible, we can have the plebiscite in the local elections to be held in May next year, meaning 2025. That will be a huge deal. That will save us so much. So that's why we're studying it in terms of logistics. Kasi kung sinabay mo ito, right? Sinabay mo itong plebiscite sa new constitution, meaning meron kang form, pipili ka kung sino mga gusto mong senador, ganun. Meron din isa pang form, sangayon ka ba sa constitutional amendment, blah, blah, blah. Anong gusto mo mangyari? Parang agree ka ba na okay lang palitan yung economic provisions? I don't know. The final versions, I think it's still somehow in the works, but it will go through some sort of plebiscite. So it looks like the administration is already worrying. Ay, wait lang. Parang sarili ko ang kino-quote ko dito. Ayan. Ayan, Richard Haydar yan. Ayan. Ito yung sinabi ko sa Time Magazine. So this is the article by Time Magazine. Now, of course, one concern will be, as I said here in Time Magazine, dito sa article na yan, is that baka magamit as a vehicle or Trojan horse itong constitutional change. So, ako kasi personally, I do not agree dun sa argumento na pag pinalitan mo yung constitution, automatically maging magandang bansa natin in terms of investments and all of that. I think that's just blah blah. I think that's just nothing burger. Because if you look at Vietnam, you look at China, you look at many countries with very restrictive property rights and investment rules, ang laki pa rin nakukuha nilang investment. Not because investors look at things like cost of logistics, proper infrastructure, tax breaks. They're looking at things like regulatory predictability. They're looking at things like political stability. They're looking at things as like human capital, production cost, productivity trends. Yun yung mga ganyan ang tinitignan ng mga tinitignan ng mga investors when they come to a country. So yung mga nagsabi na magical if we change yung mga certain provisions of our constitutions, then we're going to be super progressive. I don't know what they're talking about. I don't think that these people understand basic development economics or have done a basic comparative analysis. Or worse, ginagamit lang ito para lang excuse to push for some sort of change in the Constitution. Now, so far, as I said, mukhang the agreement is there'll be some sort of coordinated voting by both Senate and the Congress and the coordination dun sa content ng anong mga provisions ang papalitan at anong pupunta dyan sa plebiscite next year. But as I said, while there is an agreement on changing certain provisions of the Constitution when it comes to the economic aspect of our Constitution, I doubt that this is really the ultimate purpose. And I doubt that this will be the ultimate thing. But having said that, even if yung plebiscite next year will just be about the economic provisions, the moment na papalitan yung economic provisions na yan, the moment na mag-clear ito sa plebiscite, you're gonna set a precedence. You're kind of normalizing opening kind of worms. Kasi the moment na maging okay sa tao na palitan yung ating saligang batas, the next thing you know, there's going to be another plebiscite about another provisions, right? Or if BBM will not succeed in doing that, the next administration will push for that. So it's for me, it's a psychological barrier, but also it's about clearing a political barrier. It's a kind of an uncharted territory. So yun ang tinitignan natin. Wait lang, block ko lang itong mga walang yang to. Hector, wag kang bastos. Oh, yan, block ka na. Sino pa? Ayan, ito rin, block din natin yan. Ayan, ayan, bastos kayo dyan, i-block kayo. Simple as that. Umayos kayo dito. Yan, okay. Ayan, ano. Okay, tanggal ka na. Yan umayos kayo dyan. Okay, kung ayaw nyo ma-improve yung utak nyo sa buhay, kung ayaw nyo medyo tumaas-taas ang pag-intindi nyo sa buhay, di ba kaya kayo pumunta dito? Di ba? Ganun kasimple lang naman eh. Huwag kayong manggulo dito sa classroom natin, right? We're having a proper discussion here. So, what I'm saying is this. If the Senate and Congress can agree, even to the minimum of just economic provisions, you're already setting a precedence eh. You're already setting a precedence. Of course, ang sense ko is, bago matapos ang taon at bago ito darating ang 2025 elections, there'll be gradually a push for more comprehensive constitutional change. If not a new constitution altogether, charter change meaning, right? But even if that doesn't happen, you're already setting a precedence and you're potentially opening kind of worms here, right? Because you're normalizing the idea of tinkering with the constitution of the country. So having said that, kaya nga sabi ko yes, you can say in a way it's a slippery slope, right? You're opening a kind of worms there. Because for 40 years almost, guys, at least from 1986 all the way to 2024, I would say, almost 40 years, no? The idea of changing the Constitution was stigmatized. Nako, the moment na you do that, gusto mong maging diktador. Gusto mong ibalik yung mga Marcos-style dictatorship. But now, if a Marcos Jr. overseas, without much controversy and backlash, even partial changes dun sa ating saligang batas, you're already setting a precedence. So, sabi ko nga, these precedents may benefit Marcos ahead of 2028 elections, or at the very least, it will allow the next president after him or the next generation to push for something else. Kasi madali lang sabihin ng next president na, okay, maraming salamat sa dating presidente, ginawa nila itong economic charter change, or amendment lang sa saligang batas. Pero kulang yan, guys, para mas marami pa tayong bigas, mas marami pa tayong investment, mas marami pa tayong trabaho. Kailangan pa natin palitan yung mga ganyan. So you can see, this would escalate. Kaya nga parati ko sinasabi na mahalaga na talaga may opposition dyan sa Senado. Mahalaga na mobilize ang opposition. Hindi pwede nagpa-popcorn lang, because things are already moving. There is already a mobilization in favor of constitutional change. And as I said, even if maging partial lang yan, you never know after 2025. Baka after 2025, if mas malakas pa si BBM, he'll push even for more. Or if after 2025, kung hindi pa malakas si BBM, yung next na president can push for more comprehensive charter change. So the idea of a Marcos Jr. overseeing a change of constitution that try to avoid something that his father created, the moment we'll go there, then you're talking about some new uncharted territories. But as I said, at the very least, you're breaking certain psychological barriers. You're breaking stigma. You're breaking taboos, right? Pag nawala na yung taboo and stigma na yan, it's an open field. And that is why we have to pay very, very close attention to what is happening here. Ako, ang basa ko talaga dito is, kung hindi nag-iingay ng tao, kung hindi nagkaroon ng backlash dun sa EDSA Puera, ganyan-ganyan, siguro, ibang usapan na ngayon Hindi lang plebiscite or hindi lang economic provisions. This could have gone in a completely different direction. Much wilder version. So what I'm saying here is that hindi ibig sabihin niyan na wala tayong magawa. Hindi ibig sabihin niyan na hopeless case tayo. Ang ibig sabihin niya is dapat vigilant tayo, dapat engaged tayo, dapat nagsuscrutinize tayo. And having said all of that, ako in principle, I am okay with changing certain provisions of our Constitution dahil I'm not 100% sold on the 1987 Constitution. I think there are a lot of things in the 1987 Constitution that hindi necessarily tugma dun sa mga pangangailangan natin sa 21st century. Sa aking palagay, may mga elements sa 1997 Constitution na more of reaction dun sa mga masamang nangyari nung panahon ng martial law, but are not necessarily the best thing for us given anong pangangailangan ng bansa natin sa panahon ngayon, di ba? But having said that, the change should be done in a proper way, and the change should be done by the right people. And that is why the least we can do is scrutinize this, follow, and if we find something fishy and all, dapat mag-react tayo, mag-respond tayo. Because ang trajectory ngayon ng itong Chacha is not too different from Maharlika Fund. Kung maalala niyo yung Maharlika Fund, the first version that came out was kind of crazy, right? In fact, the first version, I think, had Marcos Jr. as the de facto head of the Maharlika Fund. And then, nung nagkaroon ng sobrang daming backlash, etc., they went through multiple provisions, pero sa dulo, pinilit pa rin nila They still cleared the Maharlika Fund. But the Maharlika Fund that came out, the final version that came out, or the final version that is still being operationalized and all, it's nowhere as bad as the first version. So while hindi nag-succeed yung mga critics in terms of stopping the Maharlika Fund from happening, they at least were able to call out the best, call a CU, hindi lang call out, but to call out the worst version of the Maharlika Fund. So my sense is, if this Chacha is gonna happen, through scrutiny mobilization, the very least that the opposition can do is to make sure that the worst version of Chacha doesn't happen, right? And you want to also do that because you want to also send a signal to the next administrations or to this administration after 2025 na hindi natutulog ang taong bayan, na bantay sarado ang taong bayan and vigilante ang taong bayan, and people will make sure that any changes will be really for the good of the country, hindi for the good of Trapos. Alright? On that note, thank you very much again. Pasensya again, guys, dun sa kung may mga audio problem or technical problems tayo, etc. Sabi ko baka it's the phone or something, so probably I have to get something new. And thank you sa mga suggestions, whether wag mo na yung mga Chinese phone, baka Korean na lang. And thank you also dun sa mga pasensyoso and yung mga, alam mo na, na-appreciate nila what we're trying to do here in this kind of a monologue conversation and all of that. As I said, these vlogs are not just about pakyut. These vlogs are not only about, I don't know, pakitang gilas. These vlogs are also about making sure na we enhance our critical thinking skills, no? Unti-unti. Kasi hindi naman pwede na purong criticize ka lang. Dapat meron ka rin mga mungkahi, pero dapat may framework ka. Dapat you criticize even the criticism if it's necessary, right? And at the same time, dapat isipin mo ng 360 degrees yan. Sino mga actors involved? Ano mga interest ng mga actors na yan? How are they positioned towards each other? Ano yung asymmetry of power? Ano yung power relationship? Anong pwede natin gawin? So it's about first thinking straight, getting a proper understanding of the situation. And second is about making sure that from there, we can scrutinize and push the government in the right direction. As they say in democracy, the role of the citizen is to hold the feet of trapos close to the fire so that they behave themselves, just in case they want to do something fishy. All right? On that note, thank you very much, and maraming salamat, guys. Hope to catch up with you guys soon. We'll try to also have more discussions with other guests soon. But nga, medyo pagod na tayo. Haba ng usapan namin ni Ronaldo kahapon, umabot ng 3 oras almost. So, mag-recover muna tayo dyan. At hopefully, hindi jet lag yung audio natin this time, katulad nung kahapon. Alright? On that note, thank God and thank you. Salamat. God bless and talk to you soon.